What's going on, YouTube? Alright, so if you clicked on this video, it's because you're interested in learning how I seal a guitar body using automotive style paint. First off, a little shopping list is you're going to want at least a minimum of 1 or 2 2K clear coats, and that's just to seal the body. It really depends on what kind of wood your guitar body is. I like custom cans because they are affordable. You can get their stuff on Amazon and eBay, but I go through their website. Actually, well, they're local to me, but I can also order online and pick up at store. So you can get their clear coat cans for about 21 bucks, 22 bucks, something like that. They have them on Amazon for $23.99. You can also get 2K Spray Max from USC. Their stuff is pretty decent, and at the time of this recording, which was October of 2024, their aerosol clear coats were 19 bucks. So first and foremost, go ahead and start off by sanding the body. Now I believe it was 320 or 400 grit on this. You basically just want to go ahead and scuff the body up itself. You want to make sure that the clear coat has something to bind to. So just go ahead and run a bunch of sandpaper over the body, and then you're good to go. Once that's done, you just go ahead and use a tack cloth to go ahead and wipe the body down. Now we're going to go ahead and start off with sealing the body. I am using Custom Cans 2K clear coat. Take the gray cap off the bottom. There's a ring inside of it. Insert that ring into the pull down tab in the can. That will cut the bladder inside of the can, releasing the activator for the clear coat. Pull it all the way down, twist the can until you do not feel any more resistance. Basically, it'll start to spin real free, and shake the can for a minimum of 2 minutes. 3 to 5 is probably best, to be honest with you. Once that's done, you can go ahead and start applying your layers of clear coat, or aka sealer. Now, again, this is very similar to if you have used Gracie's finishes before. You're basically switching from a nitrocellulose to a urethane automotive paint. But so go ahead and, like I said, activate the clear coat, and then you're just going to go ahead and start layering this on. So I generally, for this specific portion of the guitar builds, will just go ahead and apply as much clear coat as possible at the beginning. I'm not really worried about runs at this point because the body is going to be sanded down after about 2 weeks, give or take. You could probably do it within a week if you're in a rush or just don't want to wait that long. But for me, I've learned to let this stuff cure for as long as possible before moving on to the next step. So go ahead and start applying your 2K clear coat, aka sealer. In this instance, I'm pretty generous with the 2K clear coat at this point, so I just go ahead and put as much on as I can physically do it without making it run, because the body of the guitar will basically absorb all of this clear coat into the wood grain. So you're basically just going to have to keep caking this stuff on until it's pretty flat. We'll go ahead and check out this little B-roll. You can still kind of see where the wood is showing through, or the grains are basically have absorbed a bunch of that clear coat. There's a bunch of little dimples and stuff in it. Moving on to your second coat of clear coat, you're basically just going to be applying these one after another until the clear coat can is empty. I wait a minimum of at least 15 minutes. You could probably let it go for a little bit longer, but if you let this go for too long, after an hour, this clear coat will have cured to the point that you're able to actually pick it up and handle it. So take that into consideration. I feel 15 to 20 minutes is plenty of time in between coats. Once you're done with your second coat, let that sit. This is after the second coat. You can still see where the clear coat hasn't really sunk into the wood grains as much. You're basically just building everything on top of this because this will be your first layer of sealer. Onto your third coat at this point. Just go ahead and cake on as many coats as you can out of this can. Nothing real scientific here. Basically, just keep going. I mean, if you do get a run in it, it's not a huge deal because you're just going to sand this layer off anyways. Again, it will depend on the actual wood of the guitar body. Harder woods will actually probably take less clear coat to seal properly, and softer woods will take probably more. So it just depends on what kind of wood you have. Like alder, I think, is softer wood. So I think this actual guitar body that I'm doing right now was called Carina wood, if I remember correctly. Anyways, so this is after the third coat. You can still see, I mean, we're starting to actually build up that clear coat, but there are still some imperfections in the wood, as you can see, where it really hasn't sat flat against the body. So this is my fourth and final coat of this can. Again, you're basically just going to go ahead and keep chugging along, adding as much clear coat as humanly possible without making it run or sag or any of that stuff, because you really don't want to have to like sand that out. So you want to try to get it as flat as possible on the first go. So as you can see, after the fourth coat, it has actually started to seal in that guitar body where you don't really see as much of those wood grains showing through the clear coat. But again, like I said, I let this one sit for about 2 weeks before I sanded it flat. I just wanted to make sure that that clear coat had shrunk enough and gotten into all those wood grains as much as possible before sanding it flat. Now, I am using a cheap orbital sander I got off Amazon and a little spray bottle with some rubbing alcohol. Spray it onto a microfiber cloth and just wipe all the dust and stuff off. I believe I used 400 grit at this point to sand the guitar body flat, and then just in between coats, rather than leaving all of the dust on there, I try to get as much of it off. You can also use a tack rag if you have one of those, but basically whether you're doing this by hand or with an orbital sander, I say 400 grit's probably good enough. You don't want to go too fine, because then the clear coat really won't have much to adhere to. And if you go too heavy with a grit, like 150 or 120 or 180 even, I feel that you're just going to be adding more clear coat than you need to fill in more scratches and like deep cuts and stuff. Again, at this point, you're basically just going to go ahead and sand everything flat, clean it off every once in a while with either just a microfiber or a tack rag. I took the pad off of the actual orbiter and just tried to get into the nooks and crannies of the guitar. And once that's done, you can go ahead and move on to your second can of sealer. As you can see, after we had sanded this flat, that there are still some more shallow spots in the actual wood. So that's what that second can of sealer is actually for. If you need a refresher for this, go ahead, pop off the gray cap, take that little metal ring out of the cap, thread it through the bottom, pull the tab down all the way until you can't anymore, and then rotate the can until the can starts to just rotate real free. And you'll basically know that you cut the bladder inside, shake it up for a minimum of 2 to 3 minutes, and go to town on your second can of sealer. Again, nothing really scientific about this. You're basically just applying sealer at this point. You don't really need to worry. I mean, even if you do make it run, it doesn't really matter, because you're going to sand this coat flat again anyways. If it comes out really good and you know, like you feel that it doesn't really need to be flat sanded a whole bunch, you could probably just go back over it with like a 400 grit, scuff it up enough to where that either your paint or your primer will stick to the body. So just take that into consideration. After your first coat, go ahead and move on to your second, your third, and your fourth coats, and then let this second can of sealer sit for a minimum of 2 weeks. And trust me on this when I tell you, you want to make this stuff sit and cure for like at least a minimum of 2 weeks, because I have noticed that if you do try to do stuff before the 2 weeks with the clear coat, that the clear coat will still shrink even after that. So just take that into consideration. I know sometimes you just want to get stuff done, but really waiting is actually probably the best thing. And then once you're done with your second can of clear coat, like I said, let it sit for a minimum of 2 weeks. And at that point, you can go ahead, level sand it, flat sand it, whatever, and start applying your primers or paints. So basically with this color, we went with a white primer just because it's easier with a black base coat to see covering. So we did white primer, black base coat, and then a really cool color which is called chrome coat cyan. It shifts a bunch of different colors, and that's why I like custom paints, man. They got some really cool stuff, you know what I mean? Like this guitar build that I'm actually doing for this is for a friend, Jacob. His band is called Disposed. If you like hardcore stuff, go ahead and check them out. I believe they are on Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. But so that's pretty much it. I mean, basically, once you're done with your 2 cans of sealer, you can wait at least a minimum of 2 weeks, cut it, and then go ahead and start painting. We used a white primer, a black base coat, and this cool color called Chrome Coat Cyan, which is just pretty wild. And then 1 more can of clear coat, so this way it's nice and shiny. If you guys like this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. If you didn't like this video, also give it a thumbs up. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the buttons. I'm Jordan, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.